first of the postseason berths have been handed out, and we are just 6 weeks into the regular season. Good evening and welcome to the WLEW Sports Network presentation of The Strong Side on Sports Radio 1021. I'm Clark Ramsey, your host, and joining me tonight is a true professional. Even has a license to prove it. Please welcome Dave Hansen.
Thanks, Clark. It feels good to be back. I missed you guys last week.
Also in studio with us is the sports editor of the Huron Daily Tribune, Paul P. Adams.
It's good to be back. My shoulders were a little sore from carrying the show last week, but it's good to have you back, Dave.
That's enough of that. The Wild Wild West is holding true to its name, but it's shaping up for a Greater Thumb West championship in week number 7. It's the undefeated Lakers hosting the 5-1 USA Patriots for all of the marbles. You'll hear that game on Sports Radio 1021 and certain to be a great one.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. The game of the week, two teams fighting for the West. We finally get to clear it out, see who's the leader.
That's our Wild Wild West preview, but don't forget about that East. There's a team over there in the East, Ubley, that's they've carved their way through the West. Quality wins over there in Ubley. They're undefeated. They clinched their playoff spot, and now they're working on the Greater Thumb East Championship.
Tonight's edition of The Strong Side is presented on the WLEW Sports Network by Active Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine, McCormick Motors of Pigeon, Randy's Hunting Center, Thumb National Bank and Trust, and Sure Healthcare Network. Better health, better life. Left side or right side, you're listening to The Strong Side. Left side or right side, you're listening to The Strong Side on Sports Radio 1021 with Clark Ramsey, Dave Hansen, and from the Huron Daily Tribune, Paul P. Adams. This segment of The Strong Side is presented by Active Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. Life is painfully enough. No need to feel in your back, too. That's Active Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine just west of Light and Bad Axe, and now a second location in Sandusky. It was a busy week in week number 6 across the thumb of Michigan. In 8-player division, we had Peck traveling to Brethren, and it was all Peck Pirates, 58-18 in that ball game. Morris took on Kingston, and Kingston squeezes one out, 22-20 over the Morris Orioles. Caseville takes to extra innings to take out Akron Fairgrove, 36-30. It was 22-22 at the end of regulation, and they score 14 to Akron Fairgrove's 8 in overtime for their second victory this season. Chance Shippey had 35 carries for 289 yards and 3 touchdowns for Caseville. Then Joe Alves, 2 rushing touchdowns, 10 tackles, and 3 interceptions, as well as the quarterback sneak for the winning touchdown for Caseville. Jonah Ruth with 14 tackles and 1 recovered fumble. Some impressive stats for Caseville.
Yeah, and that was a great win. I'm actually surprised it was that close, but it was not great conditions to play in, but a gritty, gutty win for the Caseville Eagles.
Can't be happier for anybody. Caseville gets a big win, a tough win, and they deserve it.
Deckerville took on Dryden, and they blanked them 42-0 in Dryden on Friday. Mayville took up North Huron 38-26 to squander North Huron's homecoming. And New Haven Merritt takes out Owen Gage 36-32 for Owen Gage's first regular season loss in quite some time.
That was their first loss in a Mid-Michigan 8-man league since 2013. So it's been a while since they had a league loss, and I was really impressed with New Haven Merritt's numbers. We're going to talk about this game later in the show, but I showed up in New Haven Merritt. I had at least 30 kids, maybe more, and Owen Gage had, I think, 15. So, I mean, when you have your opponent outnumbered 2-1, you're going to wear them down.
Well, your lessons are best learned by a loss, I feel. And Owen Gage, they've been cruising for so long. This may be a good thing for them with the playoffs around the corner. But at home, I'm very surprised Owen Gage does not get the job done.
In 11-player division, the Greater Thumb Conference, Harbor Beach traveled to Memphis on Friday, and they blanked the Yellow Jackets 61-0. Harbor Beach's defensive numbers starting to dwindle a little bit from 48 points 3 weeks ago to 34.5 after 6 weeks. Ubley blows out Sandusky. It was 46-0 at halftime, and final score is 46-7. The Bearcats over Sandusky. We'll have more on that later in the show. Brown City takes out Marlette 46-14. Brown City with their second victory this season. Marlette now falls to 0-6. Brown City had 426 rushing yards in that ballgame. Jacob Martis with 257 of them in 4 scores. Cass City took out Bad Axe 48-8 in Cass City. Lakers over Vassar big time 46-6. And then Reese falls to USA 20-12 in quite the ball game that occurred on Friday. In the first quarter, USA marches down the field 76 yards but they were stopped at the Reese 6-yard line for a turnover downs with 8 minutes and 28 seconds left in that first quarter, and there was no score at the end of the first. At the end of the second quarter, same deal. USA uses over 5 minutes of the clock and gets down to Reese's 12-yard line this time, and again they were stopped by the Reese defense on fourth down. Scoreless at halftime. In the third quarter, less than a minute in, Reese fumbles on their own 35-yard line, giving USA a short field to work with. And 5 minutes later, Ryan Kine with a 7-yard keeper for the first score of the night. The 2-point conversion fails. Caps off a 6-minute and 51-minute drive off 35 yards, and it's 6-0 USA. 16 seconds before the end of the third, Reese rumbles in for a 61-yard run from Mitchell Bender. Galster on the touchdown dive then for the score. The point after is blocked, and we're tied at 6 entering the fourth quarter. 12 seconds into the fourth quarter, USA Tanner Foley, he breaks out for a 60-yard run and makes it 14-6 after a 2-point conversion from Foley is good. And then Reese responds with 8:06 left in the fourth. Ryan Macklin reverses and spins into the end zone. 2-point conversion fails, and USA hanging on to that 2-point lead at the 4:18 mark, though. Reese marching down the field, and then they're stopped on their own 30-yard line on fourth down after going for it and gives the ball back to USA with a short field to work with. USA takes advantage, and with 1:46 left, the insurance run is scored. USA Tanner Foley 6-yard run. 2-point conversion fails, but they didn't need it anyway. Final score, USA 20, Reese 12. USA now 5-1 on the season, 3-0 in the Greater Than West, set up to take Lakers on next week.
Yeah, pretty clean game. Just one penalty for each side. Great battle. No score in the first half. We finally get some scoring in the second half, but selfishly noted, Tanner Foley is the man. I love watching Tanner Foley play. He comes up big in big moments. He's been known for that his whole high school career, and he continues to do so deep into this regular season. He comes up with a big run to start the fourth quarter to give USA the lead. They never really looked back, and when the game got close again, he's the guy that delivers the insurance run, and he is the guy. No, not enough credit can be said to their defense or offensive line, but Tanner Foley especially gets the gold star.
The word that comes to mind for me when I think of USA is methodical. That's what they are. They are just methodical. They don't go away from what they do. They're almost stubborn to a fault. And it's worked so far to a 5-game winning streak. And the one loss they have, that's you got to note, that's to Ubley. A very good Ubley team. They've ripped off 5 wins in a row to set themselves up in position this week. You win, you're in the playoffs, and you're probably going to win the Greater Thumb West Championship. So everything's going the way that you would expect for USA, because this is a little bit different than last year. Last year, they started so quickly after losing that first game, and then after that quick start, they kind of limped into the playoffs. I don't get that feeling this year. This team is not, even if they lose this upcoming game to Lakers, I don't feel like that's going to send them down a path where they're going to limp in and barely get into the playoffs like they did last year. This team, even if they lose, I think they're going to recover, and they can make some noise in the playoffs.
No question about it. This is a playoff team. But you brought up Ubley. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the first game of the year.
That was correct.
Ubley played USA. I would love to see a rematch of those two teams right now, because Ubley is still giving you the same Ubley you've seen. They're just that good. But I think USA, since that game, has continued to get better every week, and I would love to see a rematch between those teams. I know it'll probably never happen.
Well, if things go our way in the playoffs, we have a Division 7 district that's shaping up where Ubley is going to be right on that borderline. So, like you, Dave, I would love to see a rematch, and I'd love to see maybe even a potential Ubley Lakers game to settle that score too. But I'm kind of hoping Ubley goes up to Division 7, because it could settle a lot of things, give us some rematches and some games that we really want to see.
Yeah, because you get two teams that were just, first week of the season is just different than what it is now in week 5, week 6, and I would love to see them. I'm not saying the result be any different, but boy, what a classic game that would be.
What you're saying is USA is playing its best ball right now,
right? And Ubley's been playing great ball since the first kickoff, since the opening kickoff of week 1. They've been playing great football, I feel, and I'd love to see these two teams at their peaks go at it again.
USA rushed for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns off of 54 carries. Threw the ball once, and it was incomplete. It was a little bit of a sloppy game as far as weather was concerned. Reese, 32 carries for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 for 8 in passing with 1 interception and 20 yards. Reese had 2 turnovers, straight turnovers, fumbles and interceptions, that is, as they lost that fumble, which set up the first score for USA in the night. USA was led by Tanner Foley, 20 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Macklin Ghetto, 13 carries, 63 yards. Ryan Kine, 8 carries, 42 yards, and 1 touchdown. Joshua Lang, 13 carries for 24 yards. For Reese, Mitchell Bender, 12 carries for 137 yards. He also chipped in 7 tackles, as well as Jacob Hartman. He had 9 carries for 52 yards. Ryan Macklin with 2 carries, 20 yards, and a touchdown. And Jake Galster, the quarterback who can do it all, he even does windows. 7 carries, 5 yards for his touchdown, but he also went 2 for 8 through the air. But he did cause the fumble, had 5 tackles and 1 tackle for a loss. So the guy's all over the field.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's been the guy that's helped Reese get their name back to them. They played better football. This was a good competitive. This is the kind of game you expect to see in the Greater Thumb West, a ground and pound battle between 2 defenses and 2 hard running teams. Unfortunately, Clark mentioned it, those 2 turnovers was the difference in this game, I feel, because they basically gave USA 14 points. They gave them 2 touchdowns essentially, with the one that Tanner Foley got at the end of the game was a gimme, and the one that Ryan Kine got to start the scoring was a gimme short field. So you take those away and let them at least punt them away and go the entire field. Makes this game a little different.
And not only is this one of those classic Greater Thumb West matchups, this is the Sugar Bowl now. This takes on just a little bit more extra meaning, and now this is 3 in a row for USA after almost a decade of dominance for Reese. So USA's really turned things around in terms of this rivalry, and getting themselves back into a playoff contention. But as far as Reese goes, I still think the future's in front of them. They're probably not going to be in the they're out of the Greater Thumb West title picture now. They have 2 losses, but they still have 4 wins overall. They're at Bad X this week. Probably a wrong time for Bad X to be playing Reese, because Reese is obviously going to want to get back on track and get that 5th win, and then hopefully get that 6th win to get themselves in. But I think Reese is going to be able to bounce back from this. They've proven in their 2 losses that they have to Lakers and both USA that they were in both of those games and could have actually won both of those games. So Reese, still a really good team and can make a lot of noise when they get into the playoffs.
Reese's remaining schedule is at Bad X this coming week, and then they are at Cass City, and then they finish out the regular season home against Essexville Garber.
They're going to want to take care of that Cass City game in week 8, because Essexville Garber, I believe, is a fairly good team in the Tri-Valley East. So I don't know if I'm Reese, I don't know if I want to come down to week 9 having to beat Garber.
No question about it, but Cass City's been playing some pretty good ball too, so that's going to be a tough challenge for Reese as well.
That Cass City game, Cass City Reese, that could be winner makes it, loser goes home.
For time of possession in this ball game, USA nearly had the ball for nearly 30 minutes, 29 minutes, 50 seconds, compared to Reese's 18 minutes, 10 seconds. In that first half, it was very obvious. USA was 16 minutes versus Reese with 8. USA's defense, here's a fun fact and an impressive stat. 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and 1 fumble recovery, all on a rainy, wet Friday night.
Oh, you can't beat that, and that's the difference in the game. Like I said, the 2 turnovers provided USA with great field position in crappy situations. Bad weather. I don't know how else you can put it. They took advantage of those opportunities, forced turnovers, and turned them into points. That's what good teams do.
I'm going to pose the question. We're going to talk about Lakers later in this ball game, or in this show. USA now on the road at Lakers in week number 7. You'll hear that game on Sports Radio 102.1 on the WLEW Sports Network. What does USA need to do in that ball game to pull out a victory against Lakers, excuse me?
They have to, number one, and you can always mention turnovers, but it comes down to that. They have to take care of the football, but I still think they're going to have to do something special in that game. They're going to have to hit a play-action pass. They're going to have to force a couple turnovers, do something to stand out and get that offense the extra possession.
See, I don't believe that they need to do that. I think they just need to be themselves. 29 minutes, almost 30 minutes of time of possession. If they can keep the ball out of that dynamic Laker offense hands, then they're going to give themselves a chance to win. All USA needs to do, hold on to the ball, take advantage of every possession that you have. Even if you don't score, just keep it out of Lakers' hands and get them frustrated. I think the longer USA holds on to the ball, and especially if they could get an early lead and frustrate the Lakers a little bit, just play within themselves. I don't think they need to do anything special. But if USA gets down, they're going to be in trouble. USA needs to dictate the pace and control that game, and I think they can win that game.
They still have to finish drives because I remember a Harbor Beach team a couple years ago that never had more time of possession than any other team, and they have a state championship ring. They scored in a hurry, and Lakers they can't score at that pace, but Hunter Seeley, Brendan Wisner, those guys can score, and they can score fast. So time of possession isn't necessarily the number I'm looking at. They have to finish drives. I don't mind keeping Seeley and Wisner and company off the field, no question about it, but you can't drive 80 yards and have the ball for 10 minutes and not score.
They absolutely cannot turn the ball over. And I agree with you, Dave. If you're going to hold the ball for 10 minutes, you might as well kick it in the end zone and not have anything to show for it other than dominating the time of possession. But USA can definitely win. They need to just stay within themselves and do what they've been doing the last 5 games.
And, of course, you'll hear that USA and Lakers game on the WLEW Sports Network. Pre-game coverage starts at 6:15 p.m. with kickoff at 7 p.m. this coming Friday in week number 7 on October 7th on Sports Radio 1021. It's time for a short break on the strong side. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the East and the West and all of the games going on in the Greater Thumb Conference, and we're going to wrap things up with a little 8-man as well. You're listening to the strong side on Sports Radio 1021. Left side or right side, you're listening to The Strong Side on the WLEW Sports Network. Clark Ramsey, Dave Hansen, and from the Huron Daily Tribune, Paul P. Adams. Of course, you can listen to The Strong Side every weekend on repeat on thumbnet.net or go to WLEWsports.com for the links, or you can watch it. Watch The Strong Side on MichigansThumb.com, the Huron Daily Tribune website. You'll see our smiling faces. That's all we're doing. We're smiling. Nothing else good. And this segment of The Strong Side brought to you by Randy's Hunting Center of Bad Axe. For all of your hunting and fishing needs, make it Randy's Hunting Center in Bad Axe, where the bucks are big, the tails are long, and all of the deer are four-legged. Give them a call at 269-GUNS. In the East, the Ubly Bearcats traveled down to Sandusky, and it was all Bearcats. In fact, in the first quarter, Derek Brown broke out for a 64-yard run, Matt Mychek with a 21-yard run, and Jonathan Brandel a 6-yard run to make it 22-0 at the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, more Ubly. Jonathan Brandel with both scores for the Bearcats, 44 yards and 10 yards, both two-point conversions good, and suddenly it is 46-0 at halftime. In the third quarter, Sandusky finally gets on the board with a Brian Ross 4-yard run. Katie Brown with the point after makes it 48-7. Ubly leading by 41 points. There's no scoring in the fourth quarter. Ubly doesn't actually score in the second half, and they pull out that victory 46-7. Final score for the Ubly Bearcats. Sounds like just business as usual for the Ubly Bearcats this week.
That's a classy move by Coach Kaufman, and Craig Jacobson was on that staff for a number of years. He's a head coach at Sandusky. Ubly's not going to go in there and embarrass them, drop 70 or 80 on them. There's no need for that. So they did what they needed to do in the first half. Get your starters out of there. Don't risk anybody getting hurt. Just another business-like performance by the best team in the East and maybe the best team that we have in the Greater Thumb Conference. I know, the West is getting the coverage right now because the most compelling matchups every single week are in the West, but the best team may still be in the East. This is a team, Ubly, that went through USA, really handled USA pretty good, and then followed that up beating Cass City pretty handily and a win against Vassar. They went through a very tough 3-week stretch, and now they're rolling through their conference. Don't forget about the Bearcats. They're going to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, don't forget about them at all, and it's not their fault. They're doing their job, business as usual for the Bearcats. They come out, run the football, and there is nothing stopping them. They run the ball very well, and not enough credit goes to that defense. They play very, very good defense, very sound. They're in the right spots all the time. They're well coached, and like you said, Sandusky, it's a down year for them. The rest of the East is down, so the reason Ubly isn't getting more coverage is because the rest of the guys in the East aren't any good this year. It's just not that year, but Ubly has been very dominant. They have handled every task that's came their way. They're doing their job, collecting their points. They're going to make some playoff points now, and it's all signs point to the playoffs. They're going to make a run. They're going to be tough to beat. Somebody beats them, hats off to them.
Biggest thing is they look to be healthy. Derek Brown with that 64-yard run, that's a really big one there. And I think him and Brandel have really made a nice duo in the backfield. Matt Mychek has come in and played a phenomenal quarterback so far. I mean, that was probably the biggest question mark we had going into this season. Jeffrey Wright, a 3-year starter, really. How's Matt Mychek going to be? We saw that in the first game. We're like, he's going to be okay.
He settled in right away.
He's become a leader now, from what I've been hearing. He's really taken on that leadership role, and I think it's just given them another aspect that they've needed in their offense. He's got that ability to scramble, make some plays, break things to the outside if they need to, and just another weapon that the Bearcats have.
Well, Derek Brown, as we said, has not been healthy most of the year. I think he's getting healthier. He's showing that breakaway speed, and that's huge for them. Matt Mychek, as you mentioned, has been excellent. He showed he could throw the football in a time of need. He's got the wheels to be able to break out and kind of make some room, get to the outside, and help those guys who are running up the middle. And there's one other name that we didn't mention. He plays mostly on defense. Dominic Rosenthal has been a beast on the defensive side of the football. And
I think he's just dreaming.
and you can tell when he's not there. He is a large guy. He is very fast, and he is not the guy that you want tackling you if you had a choice. So when he's been healthy, he's been on the field. He's missed a couple games here lately. He's been back, working him back in. He is a big factor for them on defense.
When the last time I saw Ubley was against Cass City, and I remember seeing Rosenthal, and I'm like, I had to check my roster. I'm like, who is that kid? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what kind of impact he was making.
You thought he was a kid?
Well, he's a man now.
I want to check his birthday. He is big.
He was making that kind of impact where I had to take a break and I see who that was, because that's what kind of impact he was making, and that's what kind of impact he's been making.
But you check the stat sheet.
Healthy for the Bearcats.
You check the stat sheet, though. He may not be in it. He may not be the guy that's making every tackle, but he is drawing double teams. He is causing havoc, and offenses have to game plan around Dominic Rosenthal. That tells you he's a big piece on that defense.
For Ubley, they accrued 360 yards rushing the ball, did not pass once. They only had one fumble, but they did not lose it. 3 penalties for 20 yards and 11 first downs in the ball game. They were led by Derek Brown with 7 carries for 117 yards. Not too bad of an average. Derek Brown also with 1 score in the night. Jonathan Brandel, 8 carries for 94 yards and a whole slew of touchdowns. For Sandusky, they were led by Wheeler with 14 carries for 64 yards. Wenzel with 12 carries for 63. Then Ross with 35 yards and the lone touchdown for the Sandusky Redskins. Ubley limits Sandusky to 179 total yards on the night, and Ubley, now 6-0 on the season, clinches a MHSA playoff berth automatically, regardless of what happens the final 3 weeks. They are hosting the Memphis Yellow Jackets this week, who are 0-6 on the season. Sandusky is against Marlette. Sandusky's 1-5 on the season, Marlette 0-6. So we'll see how that goes. Ubley has matched their best record since 2010. The year they finished 11-1, their only loss that season was in the regional final, 12-24 to Ravenna. So pretty interesting storyline building for the Ubley Bearcats.
Absolutely. And again, we've been so excited with the West, with one team after the other stepping up to the challenge, and 3 or 4 teams had a chance to win the West as of last week before the game started. It's just been a wild West, and where the East has been settled already. I mean, we already know there's nobody going to beat the Bearcats. There's just not. They are that good around here, so we're looking forward to them in the playoffs. But again, now they drop Memphis, which is a important game for Ubley in the sense that it's another week for Derek Brown and anybody else who's been hurting a little bit. They're going to get some rest time because Memphis is not good, as you mentioned. 0-6.
They might get rest time because Harbor Beach might have ended Memphis' season. I've been just hearing initial rumblings from after that 61-0 thrashing that the Pirates went down to Memphis that might be it for Memphis. The rumors have been running for weeks now.
For weeks, right.
Going into the Bad Axe game, even dating back that far when Memphis came up to Bad Axe, we didn't know if Memphis was going to have a team, and now that's resurfacing again. So Ubley might have a bye week this week. It'll be a win for them. It won't affect their playoffs. And like you said, Dave, it could be a chance to get everybody healthy. But I know Ubley, they want to play that game. You know, they want to get reps for their starters and then for their second string and guys that might need it in the playoffs.
Moving on to the Cass City and Bad Axe game. This game took on Friday, and it was all Cass City. In the first quarter, Cass City scores twice from Luke Stern and Brad Hacker, makes it 12-0. In the second quarter, more of Cass City. TJ Moore show, 5 yards for a score, and then a 32-yard run from TJ Moore. And then the freshman, Shannon Cothrell, with a 30-yard run to cap off the first half, 32-0 Redhawks. In the third quarter, TJ Moore scores again, this time from 35 yards out on the run, makes it 40-0 after a 2-point conversion, and then Bad Axe finally gets on the board. A Clark Brady touchdown makes it 40-8. And then in the fourth quarter, Cass City's TJ Moore recovers a fumble and takes it 68 yards for the touchdown. 48-8 is your final score. Redhawks stop a 2-game skid, and it's their first victory since September 9th against Brown City. Now in 3-2 on the season, 1-2 in the West.
Well, Cass City, I know they haven't won in a few weeks, but they have played better than their record shows. They have been in every game. They've led in the middle of the fourth quarter in all those games and haven't been able to finish the job. So unfortunately for Bad Axe, Cass City just unloaded on them. But there's two things that are very important that you didn't hear about in any of the scoring. Nick Perry and Shade Perzanowski did not play in this game, and I knew they weren't going to. So it kind of raised some eyebrows for a second. Okay, so now they have TJ Moore. We know Hackers around there in Stern. Is that going to be enough? I mean, is this an opportunity for Bad Axe to open the door? Absolutely not. The Cass City defense completely shut them down. TJ Moore got a workload in finally, and he took advantage of every carry. And Brad Hacker got some much-needed reps because you never know when you're going to need him. So I thought it was very interesting. And Sandon Cathrall, when we seen him, we knew he was pretty banged up from the game we seen him at. We didn't know what was going to happen, but he is clearly the quarterback of the future for Cass City. He provides some speed and the ability to throw the football. I think he's got some growing to do there because Hunter Vaughn, they didn't even attempt when he was in the game. So it's clearly Cathrall's team, and I thought this was very important, knowing that Perry and Perzanowski, as important as they are at running back, how important are they on that defensive line and linebacker up the middle? And Bad Axe could not take advantage of that. Credit to Cass City. They played well, and the defense was outstanding.
Hey, TJ Moore, you're going to get, Coach Cathrall's like, you're only going to get 8 carries, but you're going to get 101 yards and 4 touchdowns. So enjoy that. I mean, the kid's he's a game breaker. Every single game he has, I think he's had a scoring run over 30 yards. Just a fantastic kid to watch and a great workload by Hacker. You kind of had the feeling that this was coming. Bad Axe was unfortunately on the other side because Cass City was on a 2-game losing streak and was getting tired of losing. And they broke out in a big way. And it's kind of unfortunate for Bad Axe because I thought the week before they played an outstanding defensive game against USA, really kind of held USA in check. And USA is a team that already beat Cass City, so you were kind of thinking that Bad Axe would maybe be able to come up with a similar type performance, but it wasn't even close.
Bad Axe was limited to 124 yards of the night, 75 rushing, 49 passing, on 6 for 12 passing as a team with 1 interception. Brad Hacker led Cass City with 179 yards off of 15 carries and a score. TJ Moore, 8 carries for 101 yards. 4 total touchdowns, 3 of those rushing the 4th, that fumble recovery. For Bad Axe, they were led by Gorkowski, 3 carries for 60 yards, including a 51-yard run. Clark Brady, 5 carries, 51 yards, and a score. Ryan Haleski, 8 carries for 20 yards, and mind you, his long run in the night was 21 yards. And then Ben McVeigh at quarterback, 9 carries for negative 24 yards, getting beat up a lot. McVeigh was 6 for 11 in passing for 49 yards. Volk with 2 receptions for 23 yards. Cass City at Vassar this week, who is 1-2 in the West, and Bad Axe home against Reese, who is 4-2 coming off that loss to USA. 7:33 on Sports Radio 102.1. It was an absolutely beautiful fall afternoon and day in the East Side studios of the Clark Ramsey Manor of the WLEW Sports Network, broadcasting live from the Clark Ramsey Manor. Life, liberty, in the pursuit of luxury. Book your stay today or like them on Facebook. That's the Clark Ramsey Manor. It is currently 63 degrees in Harbor Beach, Michigan, and sounds like we have some pretty mild weather in our future. Something we're looking forward to is our first rainy Friday football game of the season, and it finally came in week number 6, not too bad. We'll see what this week looks like, and in doing so, we have our scorekeeper and meteorologist, Paul Janis, standing by. With that, Paul Janis, take it away.
I just wanna dance, feel good.
Listen to the WLEW Sports Network. Let's try it again. Listen to the WLEW Sports Network in more ways than ever before. Tune to Sports Radio 1021. Download the Cruise 102 app on your Apple or Android device, or listen live and worldwide at WLEWsports.com. And now you can watch the Strong Side on the Huron Daily Tribune website. Clark Ramsey, Dave Hansen, and Paul P. Adams. It makes us dress up on Sundays now. It's wearing our Sundays
No
best
more
for
hoodies.
multiple reasons. No more hoodies. We'll wait and we'll see how John Mooney does. Speaking of basketball, John Mooney's already compiling his rosters for the basketball season. So
God
get
bless
ready.
that man.
Hey, let's take a look at the Lakers. They are 6-0 and clinched their playoff berth through 6 weeks and 3 weeks to go. And they took on Vassar. It was 24-0 at the end of the first quarter, 38-0 at halftime, 38-0 at the end of the third, and final score was 46-6. Lakers compiles about 346 yards of offense, 224 rushing, 122 passing. Vassar just 66 yards rushing the ball. Not exact, and 51 yards passing the ball, so very limited offense for the Vassar Vulcans. And the Lakers soar to their sixth victory of the season, led by Hunter Seeley with 110 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing the ball. King Valentine, 54 yards and 2 scores, and Brennan Wisner, 39 yards and a touchdown for himself. He also threw for a touchdown to Keegan Valentine and accumulated 109 passing yards on the night.
There's 2 things that come to mind. Number one, Vassar, when you have as many penalty yardages as you have rushing yardage, you probably didn't have a good day. They had 50 yards in penalties to 66 yards rushing. That hurts because if you're not moving the chains and your self-inflicted wounds are preventing you from getting first downs along with a tough defense, you're not going too far too fast. But the one thing on the Lakers side that I did like is, to me, they're prepping for the playoffs. Not only are they running, they could have run the football like Ubley did on every single down and attempted 0 passes throughout this game. Brennan Wisner threw for over 100 yards. And to me, not every game is going to be in a situation where you're up by scores and you're going to run the ball every single play. And to me, by him letting Wisner throw the ball early in this game and often, it shows to me that they're making sure Brennan Wisner is sharp and ready for the playoffs, because you never know what situation is going to bring, especially with that district that's potentially going to be there.
You're absolutely right, Dave, and that's the one thing that stuck out to me too. We've talked about some really good teams so far: USA, Reese, Ubley. The one thing those teams don't have, in Cass City too, they don't really have much of a passing game to speak of. Lakers has had that all year. Brendan Wisner is a dual threat quarterback in every sense of the word. He can beat you with his legs, beat you with his arm, and he gives you that aspect of passing when you need it. The other teams we talked about, they're very one-dimensional, and that one dimension is really, really good. But when you need to pass, they really don't have that. You put a team like USA down a couple of scores. If they go down a couple of scores to Lakers, they've got to find a way in their wing T offense to grind that out, and then maybe hopefully get their defense to get them a stop. You put Lakers down a couple of scores, they have that ability to go to the air. They have a great receiver with Keegan Valentine and a great quarterback with Brendan Wisner who can make things happen. I think that's what just sets the Lakers apart from some of the other teams that we've mentioned so far.
Well, all these other teams you're talking about, they run the ball to throw it once or twice. This team can throw it to help the run out, and that's a big thing, where with the wing T, you're seeing the quarterback sometimes keep it for himself around the outside and try to break up that defense and stretch him out a little bit. Well, it's easy for Brennan Wisner to play action run with Hunter Seeley, because who's not going to at least bite when Hunter Seeley may have the football and then throw it right over top of defenses. And that's what they've been doing, and it's been moving the chains for them and backing that defense up a little bit, making them defensive backs sit back a little bit, because they don't want to be the guy that gets embarrassed and has that ball thrown over his head for a big touchdown, which then leads to longer runs. You get through that defensive line, it's that much further back them defensive backs are. They got 7-8 yards before they're getting hit by a D-back, and that's big for Lakers.
For Lakers, they are 6-0 and 3-0 in the Greater Than West, which puts them in first place, along with USA, also 3-0, and that's who they're facing this week. USA at 5-1 on the season, rattling off 5 straight victories. Lakers hosting the USA Patriots. You can hear this game on the WLEW Sports Network. Coverage starts at 6:15 p.m. and then kickoff at 7 p.m. on Sports Radio 1021 and WLEWsports.com. We've talked about what USA needs to do in this ballgame. What about the Lakers?
Well, what can you say? Lakers is doing everything right just as much as USA is. Lakers has that extra dynamic where they can throw the football. They play excellent defense like USA does. They run the ball as good as USA does. To me, the X factor is, can Brendan Wisner throw the football a little bit? And if he can without turning it over, because your biggest risk of turnover probably is the interception, a tip ball that goes to the wrong arms, that could change the game dramatically. If Brendan Wisner can get into that game early and complete a couple passes and back off that tough USA defense, that's going to make life a lot easier for Lakers on offense. But defensively, they're going to have to remain strong and know where Tanner Foley is at all times.
I don't know much about game planning, but if I were to game plan, if I'm the Lakers, you know what USA is going to bring. I mean,
But they are who we thought they were.
exactly. They run the wing tee, they run it to perfection, and they don't really do a whole lot. There's not a lot of flash. You know what USA is going to do. When you're game planning for Lakers, they can beat you in a multitude of ways. Hunter Seeley's had great games, but Hunter Seeley's also had games where he's taken a back seat to Brendan Wisner, who's really feeling it, with his rushing ability and his arm. And Keegan Valentine, the 2 rushing touchdowns, I really like to see that. It shows another dynamic in that offense. Lakers, I think for me, if I was an opposing coach, it's very hard to game plan and know exactly how the Lakers are going to come at you and try to beat you, because they can beat you in a multitude of ways. They're not a one-dimensional team.
Well, we'll have our final predictions at the end of the show and take a look at the Week 7 schedule.
Well, we're not going to give our winners away.
Oh, I'm not too
No.
worried. I'm not too worried. Let's take a look at 8-man football. New Haven Merritt took on the Owen Gage Bulldogs on Friday, and at the first quarter, it was New Haven Merritt struck first. John Bazile with a 34-yard pass to Matthew Shather. For the first score of the night, Owen Gage David Binder with a 6-yard run, and then New Haven Merritt, 18 seconds left in the first. Tim Shambling with a 1-yard dive makes it 14-6. New Haven Merritt and Owen Gage played catch-up this entire game, and with time expiring, Jake Warak launches a 60-yard pass to Derek Vincent to make it a 2-point ball game, 14-12. In the second quarter, New Haven Merritt, Tim Shambling with a 7-yard run makes it 22-12 after a 2-point conversion. Owen Gage responds with Binder, a 5-yard run, and with 3:10 left in the second, 22-18, New Haven Merritt still leads by 4 as Owen Gage could not convert on the 2-point conversion. And Merritt, before the end of the second quarter, Jan Bizal with a 10-yard pass to Austin Oswald has them leading by 10 at the half. In the third quarter, Owen Gage's lone touchdown in the third, but another failed 2-point conversion, 28-24, entering the fourth. And both teams swapping blows, each with a touchdown and a made 2-point conversion. Final score, 36-32, New Haven Ware beats Owen Gage, who is now their first loss of the season.
5 touchdowns for Owen Gage and only 1 converted 2-point conversion. I mean, that's a difference in the ballgame. You lost by 4 points, and you couldn't convert on 4 conversions, and that's a difference. Other than that, I thought it was a very well-played game. I was at this game for the first half, and it was back and forth. Neither team could stop the other. They were trading punches. I really liked that pass from Warwick to Vincent. That was on a reverse pass. Warwick hit a wide-open Vincent right on the run. It was a tremendous play call. Owen Gage needed it. It was a quick answer to a touchdown. Just well played all the way around, but Owen Gage has got to work on those 2-point conversions. Other than that, you really can't really find too much of a flaw in this game for the Bulldogs. If they would have converted on a couple of those, they would have won.
For the first time in the regular season in a long time, Owen Gage felt uncomfortable for a long time, and this game certainly felt like as soon as New Haven Merritt come out and scored, I think eyebrows and people are kind of looking around going, uh-oh, this could be a long game. This team is for real. And Owen Gage did everything they could do to stay into that game. We know Owen Gage offense is very good. They've been very good. They've been good for years. And that's their MO, is scoring a lot of points. Now, 32 points should be enough to win you a football game, but their defense let them down. I know the 2-point conversions weren't there, but they needed that stop somewhere in that game, and they could not get it. And credit New Haven Merritt. They come into a tough environment, a team that's used to winning, and come in there and beat them. And it's good for both teams. New Haven Merritt takes the momentum into the playoffs, and Owen Gage, I still think you learned the most from a loss. Now, this isn't going to affect Owen Gage at all. They're going to the playoffs. But this is going to be a situation for them to really kind of look at each other and go, we do need to play better if we want to win anything in the playoffs.
In that first half, too, Owen Gage kept some drives going for New Haven Merritt with some penalties. They jumped on a couple of third down that either gave New Haven a first down or made it took it from third and long to third and short that really kept some drives going and ended up leading to touchdowns. So Owen Gage has got to clean that up a little bit too, not be so antsy to jump that count. And if they don't do that, I know in the first quarter on that first touchdown, if Owen Gage wouldn't have gave them a first down, I think they would have held, and it could have just changed the complete momentum of that game if Owen Gage were to strike first instead of New Haven to strike first.
Right, and one little side note I got to mention: 25 tackles between Warwick and Binder. That's unbelievable. So somebody help those guys out on defense, and I think they'll be all right.
19 for Vincent. I mean, it's
Yeah,
that's what you get in the 8-man game. There's less players on the field, but like you said, Dave, it's been a while since Owen Gage has been tested in the regular season and lost in the regular season. But hopefully they can learn from this. They're facing a tough Hale team now this week. And Hale and New Haven Merritt had a nice battle earlier in the season. So it doesn't get a lot easier for Owen Gage, but I think they got out of this healthy enough, and they've received a good test here.
Are you saying Owen Gage plays
Hale.
Hale? Okay, that's against what my schedule has. So Owen Gage ends up with Jake Warwick, 14 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown, 12 tackles, like Dave said. David Binder, 12 carries for 47 yards and 3 touchdowns and 13 tackles. And passing the ball, Farner had through for 57 yards and a score. Vincent receiving 4 catches, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, and 19 tackles. Impressive numbers from Owen Gage all through.
He's a nice kid to watch. Big kid. I think he's about 6'5", great hands. Always got a little breakaway speed. Definitely helps them in their passing game. Vincent does.
7:50 and a half on Sports Radio 102.1. It's time to take our last break of the night. And when we return, we'll take a look at the week number 7 schedule on Sports Radio 102.1. Oh, this is going to make for great television, folks.
Oh, folks, you were going to want to watch this.
You're going to want to watch.
The set's falling
Let's hear
around.
right. Dave or Paul, help him out there a little bit.
Hold on.
Dave Hansen just knocked over a television. This is what you get for cheap help. There we go.
I think if you're going to talk about the round table, I think Paul Adams did that on purpose.
You never know.
Man, you can watch this on MichiganStum.com next week, and just if you don't want to watch the whole thing, just fast forward to the last segment, because that was worth it.
Well, this segment is brought to you by McCormick Motors of Pigeon, home of the honest sale. See Marion Shetler, Alec McCormick today, and see why all roads lead to McCormick Motors of Pigeon. Let's take a look at the Week 6 schedule, folks. Why don't we? Clark Ramsey, Dave Hansen, and Paul P. Adams from the Huron Daily Tribune. Week number 6 is behind us. Week number 7 is upon us. October 7th. The 7th at 7, Friday. Harbor Beach is at Brown City. Memphis at Ubly. And Marlette at Sandusky. That's your Greater Thumb East, folks.
I tell you what, Harbor Beach, Brown City. Gonna
Sneaky
be a really close game. I know Harbor Beach still undefeated in the East, right? So they're the only competition to Ubly right now. That matchup's coming up, but Brown City been playing a little better lately. That could be an intriguing game in the East.
I agree, Dave. Brown City's coming off a very convincing win against Marlette. Harbor Beach beat Marlette by 4 points. So if you're just looking at the like scores, Brown City has a very good chance to upset Harbor Beach here.
In the West, we have the game of the week on the WLEW Sports Network, USA at Lakers. Coverage starts at 6:15 on Sports Radio 102.1. Cass City is at Vassar and Reese at Bad Axe.
Now, there's one game that makes a difference here. How can you not? We can't talk enough about USA at Lakers. The rest of those games should be fairly predictable. I don't foresee any hiccups there, but I'm looking forward to USA taking on Lakers, really pushing Lakers to the limit. And USA, again, coming off that Ubly loss, they have played so much better football down the stretch. It's going to be a fabulous football game.
I agree. The West is down to 2 teams, USA and Lakers. Whoever wins this is going to win the West. I know both teams are going to have one league game after this, but this is your Greater Thumb West Championship. If you're wondering where to go, if you want to go to a game on Friday night,
stay home, listen.
Well, if you're not going to listen, go to this game. Heck, if you go to this game, listen to it on the app like I do. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can watch it and listen to it, but this is definitely the game of the week. There's no other game that even comes close to what this one's going to mean.
In 8-player, Mayville is at Deckerville, Dryden at North Huron, Burton Madison Academy at Caseville, Owen Gage is at Hale, and Peck is at Morris.
Well, and then there's one game here that stands out that looks to be a very intriguing matchup. Owen Gage, we'll see how they respond. A little adversity, lose their first game in the regular season in multiple years. Now they got to travel to a Hale team that's been playing fairly good football. They're going to be tough, especially at home. That's your intriguing 8-man game of the weekend.
I agree, Dave. This is the first time that Owen Gage has experienced a regular season loss in quite some time. Let's see what kind of character they have, how they're going to bounce back. They're going to be on the road, kind of out of their element a little bit against a Hale team that played toe-to-toe with New Haven Merit. So this is going to be a tough test for Owen Gage. And if they were to lose this game, then we really have to go back in the Wayback Machine and see when's the last time Owen Gage has lost back-to-back games. So this is a big character test for Owen Gage. I think the game I'm kind of looking at to go to, just because I haven't seen them, I'm sending Seth Stapleton, obviously, to the game of the week, USA and Lakers. I'm looking at Mayville and Deckerville, just because I personally haven't had a chance to see Deckerville. I want to get a chance to see them up close and personal before the playoffs start.
I don't do it often, but I'm going to speak on behalf of Clark. You will be impressed. Deckerville is worth the price of admission. They are very fun to watch, both sides of the football. They are well coached. They do everything well.
All right, fellas, quickly. I know we've talked about the matchup a lot, but USA and Lakers, final thoughts.
Well, I obviously can't give you who I think is going to win, but I could make a case for both teams. USA has had that loss this year. They have learned from it, and they have played the best teams we have and won every game since. That was a character game against Cass City. They showed that they can move the ball in a time of need when there's not a lot of time left. Lakers has been running through everybody as well. They survived a Cass City battle. That's kind of been the team that has been so close to beating both of those teams. They could be in this conversation, Cass City. But I'm looking forward to a close game. I don't care what anybody you guys say. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tight battle. And again, it may be one of those games who has the ball last may be the team that ends up with the victory.
Both of these teams have impressive wins, but they've also both been battle tested. Lakers went back-to-back weeks where they won by 6 points. So those were character building wins for the Lakers, and USA likewise has been able to be in close games, win close games. The one loss to Ubley, but I think they've really grown from that. I agree, Dave. I think this is probably looking to be a touchdown or less game. Very opposite teams in terms of how they do things. USA very methodical. Lakers, we've said dynamic. And,
one turnover could change that game. That's
absolutely
how close this is.
Well, we'll have to wait till Friday at 7 p.m. to find that out. Coverage starts at 6:15 p.m. on Sports Radio 102.1 with Clark Ramsey, a guest color commentator, as Dave Hansen's gone for another conference. And, of course, Doug Cole will be back on staff of the WLEW Sports Network, your home for high school football all season long. You've been listening to The Strong Side, presented by Thumb National Bank and Trust, Rainey's Honey Center of Bad Axe, McCormick Motors of Pigeon, Active Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine, ensure better health, better life. I'm Clark Ramsey on behalf of the WLEW Sports Network. Thank you for listening. We'll see you Friday.